Before you were born, someone decided what your life was worth. Not in a spiritual sense, not in poetry. A cold, hard number stamped into metal, printed on paper, stored in a server somewhere. And the strangest part? You agreed to it. We all did. Every single human being alive. Today agreed to a system nobody living today actually chose. But here's what keeps me up at night. The people who invented money didn't invent it to free you. They invented it to control something far more dangerous. Money didn't start as a solution to poverty. It started as a solution to power. Go back. Far back before kings, before empires, before the concept of a nation even existed. Roughly 10,000 years ago, somewhere in the Fertile Crescent, humans stopped wandering. They planted seeds, they built walls, and for the first time in the entire history of our species, they stayed. And when you stay in one place, something terrifying happens. You accumulate. One farmer grows more wheat than he can eat. Another man raises more cattle than his family needs. A third woman weaves cloth faster than her village can wear it. And now everyone has a problem that hunter-gatherers never had to solve. How do you trade? The answer was barter, direct exchange. I give you grain, you give me pottery. Simple, human, honest. But barter had a fatal flaw, a flaw so simple it almost sounds like a joke. What if I want your fish but you don't want my wheat? Economists call this the double coincidence of wants. You need to find someone who has exactly what you need and needs exactly what you have at the same moment, in the same place. For a small tribe, this worked. For a growing civilization, it was catastrophic. So humans did what humans always do when reality refuses to cooperate. They invented something that didn't exist. The first currency wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It wasn't even a coin. It was grain. It was cattle. It was obsidian blades and cowrie shells pulled from the ocean floor. In ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, around 3000 BCE, the Sumerians began using clay tablets to track debts. If a farmer owed a temple priest 10 jugs of barley, that debt was pressed into wet clay and sealed, a promise, dried into permanence. This is where something deeply strange begins. Because those clay tablets weren't just records. They were, in every functional sense, the first money. The debt itself became tradable. The promise of grain became as valuable as grain. Let that sink in. The first time in human history, a piece of dried mud, with no inherent value whatsoever, was worth something, not because of what it was, because of what people believed it represented. The invention of money was not the invention of a thing. It was the invention of a belief. And this is the part almost nobody talks about. The first people to control this belief weren't merchants. They weren't kings. They were priests. The great temple complexes of Mesopotamia, the ziggurats, functioned as the world's first banks. Grain was stored inside them. Loans were issued from them. Interest was charged. And the priests who managed these transactions didn't just handle money, they invented it. And in doing so, they became the most powerful people on earth, because whoever controls the belief controls everything the belief represents. But then something strange happened. Around 700 BCE, in a small kingdom called Lydia, the western edge of modern Turkey, a king named Alyattes did something that would permanently alter human civilization. He minted the first coin, a small electrum disc, a natural alloy of gold and silver, found in the rivers of Lydia, stamped with the image of a lion, and marked with a standard weight that guaranteed its value. It sounds so simple, almost boring, but what Alyattes had actually done was something philosophically terrifying. He had taken trust, something invisible, something human, something ancient, and compressed it into a physical object that any stranger could hold in their palm and immediately understand. You didn't need to know the king. You didn't need to know the priest. You just needed to recognize the stamp. Money didn't require trust between people anymore. It replaced that trust entirely. Trade exploded. Cities grew overnight. Armies could be paid. Roads were built. Libraries were funded. And within 2 centuries, the coin had spread from Lydia across Greece, Persia, India, and China, an idea so powerful it traveled faster than any army. But here's the twist that never makes it into history class. The reason coins became so valuable wasn't just convenience. It was violence ancient. Coins weren't just currency. They were propaganda. Every coin bore the face of a ruler. To use the coin was to silently acknowledge the ruler's authority. The trade was to submit. Every transaction, every purchase, every debt repaid was a tiny act of political obedience. The Roman Empire understood this perfectly. When Jesus was asked whether Jews should pay taxes to Caesar, he asked to see a coin, a denarius. And when someone handed it to him, he looked at the face stamped on it and said, famously, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." He wasn't talking about taxes. He was talking about who owns reality. Ancient China took this even further. By the 7th century CE, during the Tang Dynasty, paper money emerged, not as a government program, but as receipts, called flying money, given to merchants by regional agents who held their gold in distant cities. You would travel across China and trade your gold for a piece of paper. Then at your destination, exchange the paper back for gold, a piece of paper, with no intrinsic value, worth a fortune. But the Song Dynasty took it one horrifying step further. They started printing more paper than they had gold to back it, and nobody noticed, because paper money only works as long as nobody checks. As long as nobody shows up at the bank and says, "I'd like my gold back now, please." The entire global financial system is, and always has been, a controlled hallucination. The moment enough people stop believing, it collapses. This happened to the Song Dynasty. Their currency collapsed into hyperinflation. Their empire destabilized. And the Mongols swept in. A belief system failed. And a civilization fell. This wasn't the last time. It won't be the last time. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Money has never been real. Not the cowrie shells. Not the grain tablets. Not the Lydian coins. Not the Roman denarius. Not the Song Dynasty paper notes. Not the dollars in your bank account right now. Every single form of currency humanity has ever invented has been, at its core, a shared fiction. A story we agreed to tell each other. A collective delusion so total, so complete, that we forgot we made it up. And yet this fiction has fed billions. Built cathedrals. Launched wars. Ended them. Sent human beings to the moon. Written symphonies. Cured diseases. The most powerful force in human history isn't gold. It isn't oil. It isn't nuclear weapons. It's belief itself. Organized, weaponized, institutionalized. Compressed into a coin, stamped with a face, and handed to a stranger. We didn't invent money to measure value. We invented it to create it. Out of nothing but trust. And this is where it gets personal. Because you, right now, are living inside this fiction. Your salary, your mortgage, your savings account, the price of the food you ate today, all of it exists only because enough people agree that it does. The moment that agreement breaks, the moment the belief wavers, Zimbabwe, Weimar Germany, Venezuela, the Song Dynasty, the story always ends the same way. Not with violence, not immediately, with people realizing all at once that the paper in their hands was always just paper. So the next time you hold a banknote, really hold it. Look at it, it's made of cotton, printed with ink, signed by someone you've never met, representing a government you didn't choose, backing a promise nobody has fully kept. And yet, you'd trade hours of your life for it. You'd sacrifice friendships over it. Wars have been fought over it. Families destroyed by it. Entire civilizations erased from history by the loss of it. This is the oldest magic trick in human history. And here's the thing about magic. Tricks, they only work because the audience wants to believe we invented money. And then we forgot that we did. And that complete total forgetting is what makes it work. The question isn't whether money is real. The question is, what does it say about us that we needed it to be?